Hello, everyone. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Language Learning, Ending the Silent Classroom with Interactive Strategies to Engage Every Learner. So yeah, especially for you today, we've prepared a energizing practice-focused session that's really designed to help you transform the way learners engage in your language classrooms. So in this webinar today, we have two great practitioners who are gonna share how they've moved beyond passive listening and performance anxiety to create interactive spaces where every learner really participates with confidence. So together, they're gonna break down these concrete methods, insights, and classroom techniques that have really reshaped their courses and can ideally immediately elevate yours as well. So you know, that's hopefully the what you come away from from today's session. We hope you come away from today's session inspired, already thinking about how you can apply some of today's examples and learnings to your next classes. So yeah, just a bit about the format and some housekeeping rules. So today's session is going to be a 1 hour session, and we'll be hearing from our two speakers for about the first 45 minutes, and we'll have a dedicated 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. So throughout the session, you can, of course, ask any questions you have, and we'll just ask that you use the dedicated question tab that you can see in the bottom right corner. So just an important distinction here, you have chat tab and question tab. If you use the questions for the questions, easier for us to track and make sure that we've answered all of them. And you can, of course, send any messages and feedback in the chat. And throughout today's session, we're going to have some live questions. So there'll be times where I'll be asking you to answer, but in any of the live questions we have for our speakers, they're more there to illustrate their examples. So you don't need to answer those. They're more there just to show you and yeah, illustrate their examples. And yeah, today's session is going to be recorded, and you'll receive a replay of the session with subtitles in Spanish, French, and Italian. Okay, so that concludes the little intro part. And yeah, I mentioned our two speakers, but I'd like to take a little moment to formally introduce them. So today we're joined by Lenny Amores, who's director of the Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning, as well as a Spanish teacher for Lincoln University. Lenny, thank you so much for joining us. And we're also joined by Emma Almingefeld, who is a second language and foreign language lecturer at the University of Borås in Sweden. Emma, thank you so much for joining us and for your time. And yes, I'm Kieran Farrell, Customer Success Manager at Wooclap. And before I get started, well, I wanted to take a quick opportunity to hear from you. And you know, what better way than to use Wooclap. So I'm going to be asking you if you could join us and answer a quick Wooclap question. And to do that, just join us by either clicking on the link that's being shared with you in the chat, or scan the QR code that you can see up on your screen, or go to wooclap.com and enter the code. Most of you, if you've used Wooclap, know the process by now, very easy. And again, for me as a presenter, in the bottom right corner of my screen, I can always see how many people are connected before I move on to my interactive question. So I'm going to give you just another few seconds to connect, but I'm not going to be spending too much time on any of these because priority today is to hear from our speakers, and we have quite a few examples that we want to get through today. All right, I see people are starting to pour into the event there, and we can get started with an open question. And I wanted to hear from you about what is the single biggest obstacle to student engagement or participation in your language classes, or if you're not a language teacher, in your classes in general right now. I'd love to hear from you on this question. So yes, what is the single biggest obstacle to student engagement or participation in your language classes now? Again, as a presenter, I can always display my answers in various formats. So you can see here that multiple answers are already are coming in. I see student anxiety, distraction is one that comes up. So how do I maybe make them a bit more active in their classes? Yeah, distraction, great one. Now let's see in the word cloud if any words come in multiple times. Seems like lack of confidence has come in multiple times. So little reminder with a word cloud question. If words come in multiple times, they're going to be reflected in the word cloud and be made bigger, so I can see trends in the responses. So it seems like shyness and lack of confidence are some topics that are coming in, and that's really going to join some of the points that we're gonna discuss today. So I'm really happy to say that we'll see how Wooclap can also help you overcome some of these hurdles to participation. Lack of motivation, big classrooms, large class sizes. Emma's going to talk to those points as well. Okay, great. Thank you so much for all of your answers. I'm going to lock this vote for now. We have this beautiful word cloud. Thank you so much. And I think we can already start to get started with our first part. And yeah, in this first section, we're going to go look into the core challenges that so many language teachers face. Things like speaking anxiety, passive listening, managing large groups, all topics that came up in that word cloud. So the goal is really to ground ourselves in those realities and show how simple shifts towards interaction and real-time feedback can start turning these points into opportunities, really, for stronger engagement. And I'd like to get the ball rolling with you, Emma. Emma, you teach Swedish as a second language and foreign language to large cohorts of 40, 50 students. So I'm wondering, what are some of the main obstacles to effective participation and engagement that you encounter in your classes?
So I share the main obstacles with a lot of you that are listening. So it has already been seen or said that students are shy, they don't have confidence, or they are just afraid of doing mistakes in front of their peers, especially in the beginning when they don't really know each other. Another main obstacle has been to give the students a chance to show their knowledge in my classes.
Yeah, really interesting. And yeah, I think the importance of giving students that space where they can practice without the pressure, and where they feel safe to make mistakes and try again. And we know that traditional lecture heavy approaches can often struggle to offer that kind of environment, which kind of brings me into to my second question for you, Emma. How do traditional, maybe lecture heavy methods fail to develop those skills?
For me, in a language class, it's very important to practice communication. So in a traditional classroom, it is either one student at a time that speak out, or they sit in small groups and practice. But in that way, it's really, really hard for me as a teacher to give them all feedback.
Yeah, interesting. So the possibility to, with Wooclap, to then instantly give everybody the possibility to participate and become actors of their learning. And, I think we saw that also with my word cloud at the beginning of today's session, but it would have been very difficult if we were in a live class to call on everyone, and having those questions where everyone can instantly connect and send in, and being able to spot those trends in the word cloud, it gives me that possibility to give everyone the chance to be active in their learning. Yeah, it's great. And yeah, I'd love to dig a bit deeper into what this looks like in real classrooms. And we've all seen moments where students maybe know the vocabulary, they know the grammar, but the second they're put on the spot, the words can just evaporate, maybe because of stress, or the learning that didn't really stick. So I'm wondering if maybe Lenny, you had an anecdote about a time where a student struggled to apply learn vocabulary that you could share with us today.
Absolutely. I had a situation where a student, burst out in class and they said, why the beep do I have to learn this anyway? I'm not going to use it. Um, so when we're looking at the United States context, in a lot of our colleges and university, it's a requirement. and they haven't necessarily taken very serious language learning courses in their K through 12 necessarily. So what I do is I use Wooclap as a way to help them scaffolding, and I give them maybe the Wooclaps in advance. I give them my lesson in advance, and then that way when they come to class, they're more prepared. Um, and it's another way to kind of help them with their mental bandwidth, because they're coming with all kinds of things, and that kind of spontaneous interaction that they might have where they have to produce the grammar or the vocabulary, setting them up so that they can come to class prepared is the best way to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, really interesting. And I think that touches on some of the asynchronous, capabilities of Wooclap too. And all of those, just a reminder for those that maybe haven't explored them yet, but all the live capabilities are in this live session tab. But you have this self-paced session tab here where you could import your presentation to give them early access to those slides. You could create some asynchronous questionnaire to help them prepare on that content. So yeah, it's a valuable tool to also use the asynchronous capabilities of Wooclap. Okay, great. So now we've explored those challenges kind of in depth. I'd like to kind of bring it back more to the practical side and see how you've approached this shift in your own teaching. So we've talked about the need to move learners out of a passive listening into real participation. Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about your experience and maybe how Wooclap can help you shift the dynamic away from passive lecturing towards active language acquisition in your courses. Emma, if you could maybe get the ball rolling on this.
So when the students have fun and enjoy the class, they are focused and they are in the moment, and then they can't start to think about other things. So one way to keep them busy is to use a Wooclap, and then of course I also get to see their knowledge, and if I need to go through it again, or if we can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Emma, you talked about the large cohort context and how it can be impossible to hear from everyone. And you'd noted how Wooclap can, allow you to hear from all those students at the same time. And I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on what this means in practice, and maybe what question types enable simultaneous participation. How does seeing all those responses change your role as a teacher in practice?
So what I really like to use more and more is this sorting, as you can see here, one example. So I think you have the correct sorting here, and you see it's the weekdays, since I teach beginners, because I don't want them to exposed to mistakes or wrong answers. So in traditional quizzes, there are more wrong answers than correct answers. So therefore, when you use sorting, so then they have, in this example, they get all days of the week, and then they have to put them in order. But I have used that for grammar as well. So then they have to put like present tense first, and then past tense after that. So when you start to think, you can use sorting in so many ways, and you can also use it like to compare adjectives. And I had one where they had to pick how they dress in the morning. What they put on first. So it's just your creativity that stops you, how you can use this sorting format.
Okay, really interesting. Thanks for your insights and examples there. And this sort of brings us into our second part here. And yeah, we've looked at participation and confidence. And now we're going to shift to one of the more difficult maybe areas in language teaching, which is listening and reading. And we know these are skills where students can seem focused, yet it's difficult to gain that insight into what they've actually understood. So this next part is going to be all about showing how Wooclap can turn that quiet space into something more concrete and measurable. So one of the hardest skills is to teach listening, because we don't really know what students truly grasp. So let's see in practice how we can overcome that. And before we go into that exact question, I wanted to also mention the importance of certain integrations and having your tools integrated in one place. And I know Emma, I understand you integrate Wooclap into your PowerPoint slides using the add-in. So I'm wondering, why is the integration so crucial to your teaching methodology, especially when it comes to managing large groups?
Because then I don't have to think about that. I need to switch between two different tools. So I don't need to be worried, where do I find the other one? What do the students see when I close one tool and open another one? And I think they also get the impression that the lecture is more professional, or I am as a teacher are more professional. And they can also see that or hopefully they also get the impression that I'm well prepared, since they see that I have all the slides and the Wooclap integrated after each other.
Absolutely. I think it's important not to disrupt like the flow of the presentation, and like having those questions where you become a part of the presentation makes it flow very smoothly. Yeah, thank you for your points on there. And I know Lenny, you have some great examples for us of how you sort of use Wooclap for evaluating oral comprehension. And when you play an audio clip, how do you use different like open-ended questions, fill in the blanks, or matching to assess not just if they heard it, but what they heard and maybe why?
So I use them all, and I think that they have different functions, because sometimes you can really get to the higher order thinking if you're having them really digest what the passage is about. So in this example of the audio I have, it's from a text, Hija del Camino.
En España le habían preguntado en más
So in this audio, it's based on a reading that the students had already done, and then they would listen to this audio to just hear it in another way, what they've already read outside of class. And then I have several questions, if you can skip to the next one. So for example, here we have a poll, but it's not just a regular poll. I have the comments feature enabled in this poll. So that means that the students, not only do they select, what they think it's about, but they're able to defend their answers with the comments. And I think that this brings the poll to another level, because you're having them actually defend what their choice is. And the next one. So again, enabling the comments. And then here is an example of something, for example, vocabulary that you can work with concepts, or you can work with the vocabulary from the text. So you can use this for literary analysis to get to those first stages of identifying what the text is about, for listening comprehension, listening to the text, and then get to the higher levels. So the next one. And here is a matching activity. So they're having to read between the lines here. So there's the textual evidence on the left side, and then what this text is actually saying. So there is just going that extra step of them doing that kind of literary analysis.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for all of those examples. And you touched on one feature that not everybody knows about, and it's maybe one of the rather new ones. But of course, you can go further than the multiple choice by giving that a possibility to comment on it. And I just want to go in real quick and show you where you can do that. But if you're in your multiple choice questions, don't forget that you have some extra settings on the right-hand side that can help you sort of customize your experience with those questions. And you can see that here I can enable comments on questions. So my student not only chooses the answer, but also then gives further explanations as to why they chose that answer. I'm going back to what Lenny was sharing with us right there.
And they can actually comment on what other students, so maybe they didn't choose that one, but they can comment also.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, so great examples that show that really show how many different ways you can interact with your students. And we know that varying the types of questions that you ask and switching up the activities really does have an impact on learning, and it pushes students to sort of retrieve information in different ways, also think more actively and reinforce what they've already seen. Lenny, while open questions are really great for depth, I'm just wondering how you utilize maybe more simple multiple choice questions for quick, high frequency checks.
So I think these are great for those kind of repetitive things that they just need to know. For example, conjugations, being able to identify the correct conjugations. Maybe they have to identify the correct word out of a certain out of a list of words. In this example, it's just identifying what the orange is. So this is very simple, but I would have different versions of the same with the same image. So maybe I actually had naranja, but I had it spelled in different ways. So then they would have to pick out the correct spelling. So then I know that they know how to spell it. It's not that they can just pick the one that starts with N because they remember it started with N. So there's ways to do this that is just very simple, very quick for students to do. And then you get the feedback to say, okay, students are really good on the vocabulary, or they're really good on the conjugations, and you can just repeat these same Wooclaps in your classes. So say you're working on present tense and these are the same Wooclaps over again. You got to get this right. You got to know these irregular preterite conjugations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this this question, a good reminder that you can also add images both to your questions, as you can see here. You can also have them choose from images for the answers, and all of that. If I go back into the multiple choice, you can add audio or image for each one of the options, as well as your question. So just a little quick reminder that you can sort of vary the different formats, which can be particularly useful in teaching languages. And yes, okay, move on to my next question. And now I want to zoom in into something a little bit more practical, especially to teachers working with big cohorts. I know, Emma, you often alternate between open questions and multiple choice questions in large Swedish classes, and each one kind of serves a different purpose. So I'm wondering if you could walk us through how you decide between open question versus a multiple choice question.
So I use open questions when there are different solutions, or the question can be answered in different ways. As you can see here, this was when I prepared them for the upcoming examinations. So it's for many years we have used a very creative assignment. So we just give them a picture, and then they can write anything like a short essay that has something to do with the picture. But it's very open and it's very creative. And I have students from all over the world. So this is a very new thing for them. So therefore, it's very important, of course, to prepare them. But for this, in this case, it was really important or very good to use the open end question, because then the students got to see all the different examples they could in different examples how they could answer or write this text. So, and then I use the multiple choice questions. I use mostly to check vocabulary. But as you heard me saying before, I have started to use the sorting more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Some important distinctions to make, and especially when you're making your choices to which question kind of caters to my teaching objective the most. Yeah, it's great. And yeah, and you can go even further because it's not just the text anymore. You can have students choose from images, and I think it's really one of the strong suits of Wooclap too is our image-based questions. Which can, you can have image-based questions, you can have images also in the questions as we saw in the multiple choice. And yeah, you push that into more visual activities that can support different types of learners as well. And yeah, on that note, I'd love to move into the image-based side of things. And wondering if you could show a quick example of a find on image or label an image question. And maybe we can start with you, Lenny. I know you had an example of a label and image question that you could share with us.
Okay. So here is a label these 4 countries. This is the step up, right? Because there's the find. And I really like how you can choose any kind of image. You can choose a whole background where they have to label the things in a city. They have to label for geography. So there's just anything that you can think of. And I think that what this does is make sure that they actually can pick out and identify and actually maybe try to spell it and write it out. So that's just one example that I use this for geography, but also scenes that they'll identify, or they'll be able to label what's in a particular authentic scene.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I can imagine, I remember learning vocabulary in languages. Sometimes you'd have a session on name these things in the kitchen, for example. So I could imagine one of these where you'd have to, label all of the different elements you see in the kitchen. Yeah, lots of different uses possible there. And Emma, I think you had a find on image example and a use case to share with us that I've pulled up here.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I have to give you some background. So as I said before, I teach beginners, and beginners have no synonyms. So therefore, you saw also an example that we use a lot when it comes to reading and understanding, that they have to answer the question by choosing the right picture instead of choosing the correct answer by text. So so now you see one example how so it's also important for us to prepare the students for the exams. So as I said, we have beginners, so it's a text about a student who come from somewhere in the world. And then since we have students from all over the world, we have to prepare them how a word map look like if you come or if you live in Europe. So they have to like see where is you, or like Europe is in the middle of this word map. But as you said before, it's really good to use this one. You can have like a kitchen, but you can also have different kinds of clothes. So as I said before, it's just your creativity that stops you. So to give you the right, so for the ones that are not used to the word map, where you have Europe and Africa in the middle, so you find Sweden, Norway, and Finland, because that is what I'm asking for here in Swedish, and I guess most of you have figured it out. So it's in the top.
Perfect. And you can see here that you can define a correct zone on your images. And then the way that works is you would configure it, define the zone, and then anyone that's pinned within that zone will be defined as getting a correct answer to that question. And just as a quick reminder, our image-based questions, you see a label and image, you have a drag and drop where you can also define the labels and ask them to place them on an image or find on an image. So yeah, all different ways of interacting visually with your students. And yeah, thank you both for your examples on this point. We're already moving into our third part here, which is from practice to proficiency assessment and retention. So yeah, we've looked at how to make comprehension visible and keep learners engaged in the moment. And now I want to move towards the next step, which is helping students actually produce language and retain what they've learned over time. And this part's about how Wooclap really supports speaking and writing practice, how it really extends learning beyond the classroom and can help prepare students for CEFR-aligned assessments with really clear and trackable data. So we've seen how to check comprehension, and now let's look at how to drive active production and make sure that learning truly sticks. And we can move on to our first question. You mentioned using Wooclap student presentations when I spoke to you, and I'm just wondering, how does giving students ownership of a Wooclap event foster their oral expression and autonomy?
So students are extremely creative and they really put time into making their slides pretty, and they really take ownership when they can actually create the Wooclap and present. I think it does many things. So one of the things is because they've created either a game or they've created an interactive presentation, it takes a little bit of the spotlight off of the student, so they're less nervous. The students are playing the game and they're talking and explaining things, but the students are they can actually look at their screens and they can play along with that presentation. I also think when students present, of course, they're going to practice and they have more opportunities to rehearse what they're going to do. And the other thing is, I really believe that when you have to explain something, when you have to teach something, you learn by teaching. So the students, if they have to give a cultural presentation on an aspect of a Spanish speaking country, or they have to talk about the text that they've read and create questions, polls, and other kinds of questions for the students, it really gets to that higher order thinking and how they can communicate in the language. The other thing is when the students create their own Wooclaps, they can collaborate, put them on the learning management system. They can also make questionnaires if you want to do it that way. So there's just so many different ways that students can take ownership and be proud of what they produce and present.
Yeah, some great examples there, and it's a good reminder that for those of you that are part of institutions that have an access to Wooclap, you can absolutely share that access with students. You know, everything's tied to your domain name, so as long as your students use their university credentials to create an account, they'll have access to the platform in the same capacity as you, really. So they can also create content on Wooclap, and I think that's a really good point you made, Lenny. Also, that you also learn by teaching sometimes. That's really interesting. And yeah, what I'm hearing is that this approach kind of lowers the pressure of presenting because you also have an actively participating audience. And then, yeah, students also invest care into like the choices behind their slides. So yeah, all really interesting points. And with all that in mind, I'd love to hear about maybe some other creative ways in which you use Wooclap to push students even further. And I think we had a first example for you, Lenny, that you want to share with us today.
Okay, so this is actually the final step of an oral practice activity. the first thing I would do, because I'm always thinking of scaffolding to lower the effective filter, to make it a place, a community where students they want to speak. So the first thing I might do is say a multiple choice question, which is a question and an answer, and they have to select what would be the most appropriate answer for that question. Then perhaps a matching where there's certain questions and then answers that would match those questions, so they can kind of get a feel of what are the things that how they could respond to the questions that the oral questions they receive. And then I would give them time to answer the question. So the first step, of course, what they would already have these kind of preguntas orales or oral questions, and they would have time in class to answer those on paper. I would have an open-ended question. Now they're having to, write out their answer or use the Wooclap to answer an open-ended question. Those, of course, I would see all of the answers to their open-ended question. And then now it's time for who's ready to speak. And this really sets it up in a way that is a little bit more equitable, because you can set your wheel as it automatically creates a wheel with all of the students that are in the class, or you can create your wheel yourself, with students or student groups and things like that. So using this, what I call a participation wheel, and whose turn is it to speak? It randomizes it, so that you can be called, but it doesn't feel like you're the one that's being called out at the same time, if that makes sense, because sometimes there's those two students who respond to all of the questions in the class, and they're, pick me, and it doesn't give everybody the opportunity. So here, this kind of randomized way creates, puts that game in it, where students don't feel like that they're specifically called out. And it replaces my old system of flashcards. I would bring flashcards and I would just choose the flashcards, kind of like, when you choose out of a hat. And now that just makes it easy for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for all those interesting examples there. And I think it shows how creative activities can really drive ownership, confidence, and real skill development. And so, yeah, we've looked into a lot of different questions, but there's also features that can be activated or deactivated to serve your teaching objectives. And with that in mind, Emma, we know you rely on Wooclap for effective exam preparation. And you mentioned utilizing the competition mode when we spoke. So I'm wondering if you could talk about how the competition mode paired with some other features such as timers on questions and can really help you in your teaching objectives.
So first, I would like to say, because it sounds like I'm really focused on the examinations, but we are really not. We really focus on how the students can use the Swedish that we teach in class. But since we know that the students come from all over the world, and we have a bit different or a bit creative way to assess then it's very important for them to know exactly what the exams will look like, and then we use Wooclap for that. But we also use Wooclap a lot in our classes. So for us, it's very important that the students feel safe. So very often we use that they are anonymous. And then we have some, especially since Swedish is a German language, so usually our students that are German speakers, they pick up Swedish a lot faster than some others. And then it's really good to use competition mode, because then they also have a fun and enjoy the classes and get triggered. And then they don't really or feel that the class is boring, even if it's like repetitive for them. And then, as I said, we really prepare for the examinations, since we want them all to pass this course. But so sometimes we put the timer on, but then it's also to inform them that they have to have some kind of speed. So we use the different features for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the important point there is to match each feature sort of with your teaching objective. And yeah, we mentioned a few of these features, and I just want to take a quick second to show you where you can find these features as well if you want to include them in your next classes. So if I go into the settings here, I'm going to find all of these different options. So you can see the first one here, the competition mode. One important thing to note with the competition mode is it does require some form of authentication, and the authentication options are all available here. So this is what you require from students when they connect, when they scan that QR code. What are they going to be asked for? Am I going to require them to add an email or just a pseudonym? As long as I've activated one of these options, I can activate the competition mode. And then as a presenter, I can display a podium, and I'll see the evolution of that podium throughout my presentation. So it kind of gamifies the course, brings my students into a fun kind of more interactive presentation. And finally, another setting that we discussed that you can find here is adding a timer to all questions. So here I can activate it for all of the questions, choose the time after which it times out. I can also reset that live in my presentation. But if I want to, I can also do that on an individual level for each question by adding a timer here. So there are two options for those timers there. And that kind of takes us through. I know earlier also Lenny had talked about the collaboration aspect, and I forgot to show you. But beside the settings and share event here, I can add someone as a collaborator on my event, which means they're going to receive a link and they'll be able to co-create that event with me. So we both have control over that one same event. And I just wanted to show you. So yeah, this shows you the new interface for our competition mode. So it's kind of changed a little bit, but you can see in the bottom of the screen, there's that little trophy. And when I click on it, that's what shows up. And I can see the top 10 of my respondents with the most correct answers. And we'll see that evolve, play on that competitive side of the students and gamify our courses. We know it's a very appreciated functionality. Okay, so really interesting uses there, but there's also another layer that matters just as much, which is how we capture what students are doing and use it to guide our teaching. And we've talked about engagement and production from the learner's side, and now I want to flip the lens to the instructor's side. And here from you, Lenny, on from a data perspective, how did Wooclap kind of help you track engagement in class?
Okay, so here at Lincoln University, we do have Wooclap integrated into Canvas. So it's a great way to track participation. You can even track the specific scores from the Wooclaps. So I like to tell faculty, use this as a way to see, that students are engaged in the class and that they're answering questions. And this will give me just, very quick data, very quick results. I don't have to do manual participation grades on every class. I can have a participation for each class, and they get the participation because they've answered the questions. They've answered the Wooclap questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a reminder, yeah, you can add Wooclap as an activity within your courses in your LMS, and then that gives you the option to synchronize the grades, participation, or attendance directly into the gradebook of your LMS. Okay, so we've looked at specific techniques, real classroom examples, even the data side of things. So I'd like to maybe step back as we sort of conclude here. step back for a moment and yeah, after everything you've tried, refined, and experienced, of course, there's a bigger story behind the tools and the method, and it's really about how your teachings evolved and how learners have changed with you. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could summarize sort of a before and after Wooclap experience, and maybe we can start with you, Lenny. I know you had an example to share with us today.
Okay, so so this is an example of a worksheet, an explainer, sheet, and then a worksheet that students would complete outside of class. I still like the worksheets. I want students to, write it out and have that practice. But then what I'll do is I'll take that worksheet and I'll make a version of it that's not the exact same in a Wooclap. So then students actually have to know what they've completed. They're less likely to use AI. It makes the worksheet dynamic in class. They are prepared and they're more engaged. So for me, I think one of the big takeaways is that I can still bring in all of the analog things that I used to do, but I can, make things more dynamic, and it saves a lot of time. So before, I would take the worksheets, I would grade the worksheets, and now I say, okay, bring your worksheet to class, bring another color pen, annotate as we're answering the questions in the Wooclap that are similar, and take a photo, upload it to our LMS. And now I don't have to grade anything because the students are taking ownership of correcting their mistakes, and I just have to check that they've done it. And then the Wooclap also gives me data to see what's the discrepancy if between when they completed the worksheet themselves and when they answered the questions in class. That also kinds of helps me figure out what instructional decisions that I have to make, and I can make those decisions on the spot now because I have the live data from every single student in the class to say, ooh, we didn't get this, we need to go back over it. So I think that's time saving so that I can actually concentrate on planning great lessons and giving good feedback rather than grading. So grading, if we can do less grading, I think it's great.
Absolutely. Thanks for all of that. And Emma, did you have anything you want to contribute to this last question for us?
So I have used the Wooclap and similar tools for such a long time. So I hardly remember what it was like before, because when you start to use it, it's no way back, because it forces your students to be active. And when they are active, they are alert, they are focusing, and they are also having fun. And when they are having fun, they learn more.
Great. Thank you both. I think this sort of concludes the question part for our speakers, and now maybe it's the moment to hear from our audience too. And yeah, again, thank you so much, Lenny and Emma, for your inspiring examples and your time today. And let me check in to see if there's any questions that have been brought to my attention. And I'm checking the, okay, yeah, we have a few questions here. So one of them is, if I upload a text video, can Wooclap help me, oh, sorry, it's moving around a bit, generate a set of linguistically focused questions based on that content? I don't know if this is an AI question or if it's just generally speaking, but maybe I can take that one. But with AI, you can import a text or video and generate content directly from that by using, you'll see that if you use the AI features here, you can generate content from any one of these different inputs here. and it'll generate content directly from that. So the more specific you are in what you're going to import, the more specific the outcome is going to be. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. And let me check. And this one kind of goes into a point that Lenny discussed, but it says, can students use Wooclap to create their own questions or practice activities to foster their oral expression or overall learner autonomy? I don't know if Lenny, you want to speak to that, but it kind of joins one of the points that you discussed today.
So what I really like is that you can have students actually, record their voice or add their own recordings into their Wooclap too, and then make it so they can share it with you, and then you can add it into your LMS like as a discussion, or you can have them create a questionnaire and it goes out to everyone. But one of the things that I haven't tried yet was seeing how that works, seeing if students would add their own recordings in their own Wooclaps. I haven't tried that out yet.
Okay, great. And I know, Lenny, and this is another question that Elisa had put in, but you'd mentioned the brainstorming question for teaching literature, and I think I might have that example handy here. Is it this one?
I think so. Yes.
Yes, I wonder if you could tell us a bit about how you use this brainstorming question, because this is one type of question we didn't really get into today.
So this was from the reading from the Hija del Camino, which is a literary text. So here they have to find textual evidence from the text and then put them into categories. But you can imagine any kind of literary text or any kind of text where you are really wanting them to analyze. You can think of brainstorming, but you can also do brainstorming if you have to come up with a pros and cons list and students have to come up with the pros and the cons. So anything where you want to just kind of have a that kind of coming up with something, and then you can test out those ideas later, take those best ideas and come up with something in class. So for example, here they would be able to write in their own examples for each of these topics.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a reminder for those of you that don't know the brainstorming question type, the way it works is you have your instructions at the top as usual, and then you define the categories in which you ask your students to send in their answers. Then as a presenter live, I can decide to only display the answers from this category, that one, if I want to focus on these individually. And there's further AI capabilities also that come into play in this part here. So we talked about AI for content generation, where you import your content and generate from there. But now AI also intervenes to help you process the answers that you're receiving. So it's like having a live assistant there with you in class. So imagine I've asked this question live and my categories are now filling up. Well, I can generate here a summary live of all of the answers in this category. I could also just generate an answer in a simple click of a button. So it's really giving you live possibilities for each one of these. Yeah. Let me check. And I think we're coming up to the time almost. So let's see if there's any last minute questions. There's one last question, which is, how can Wooclap support differentiation and maintain engagement for all levels simultaneously? Do either of you want to talk to that point?
It was a tricky one. I have to think about that one.
So I would say that one of the things that you can do, where of course you're having students at different levels, the good thing about it is that you can make it anonymous, so that not putting anyone on the spot as far as anonymous of what appears on your screen. So that kind of gives a chance for everybody has to participate, but I understand that, you know, you may be able to already use this imperfect and preterite together, and you're still working on this. So I think that that's one way. I think that the other way is the questionnaires. So if you, instead of making everything live, you can actually have the questionnaires where they're completing those, or versions of that same Wooclap where they can work on things so that when they get to the live event, they've already prepared. I think the biggest thing is letting them know what you're going to be doing in class so that they have a chance to prepare, maybe flip your class, or maybe do something in a way that the students that are not as strong, they're not as, you know, they're more confident when they're in the class.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I think we're coming up to the time now, and so I think it's time for us, to conclude. And thanks everyone for being with us today. We've covered a lot of ground, from like tackling speaking anxiety and passive learning to exploring concrete ways of making comprehension visible, building real production skills, creating classrooms with where every learner can participate with confidence. So yeah, huge thank you to Lenny and to Emma for sharing such generous insights and practical examples. I think their work really shows how powerful interactive teaching can be, especially when it's grounded in clear pedagogy and accessible tools. So we hope that you're all leaving today with ideas on how you can bring ideas you can bring straight into your next classes. Whether it's a new question type to try out or a new feature. We just hope that that this has inspired you. And the reminder, you'll be receiving a replay of this session with subtitles. And we'll also be sending you a language learning playbook with real world use cases that are aligned with CEFR skills, which can help you really implement these strategies immediately. And just again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm just going to conclude it with this last open question, which is use one word to describe the most valuable takeaway from today's webinar. Don't hesitate. It's still the same link for participation, and don't hesitate to send us in one word. And thanks again for joining us, and thanks again to both our speakers. Thanks again, everyone. Some good words: interactive, inspiring, useful.
I love that. More feedback, less grading.
Absolutely. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And leave this open for another minute for your last words. We always like that feedback at the end of the session. Seems like useful again, and the word cloud has been made bigger, so it's coming in multiple times. Glad it was useful for everyone. All right. Great, and I think we're coming up to the time now. So thanks again to all our participants and to our speakers, and we'll see you again soon. Don't hesitate to send us any questions you might have, and hopefully come away from today's session inspired. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
And thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye, Emma. Bye, Annie. Bye, everyone.